Hello, everyone. This is Shawn Barksdale of 10 Minutes of Truth. Today, we are in the famous Patrick Henry Museum, once again with Patrick Henry Jolly, fifth grandson. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Good to be here with you again, Shawn.
Great, great. Thanks for having us again. One of the things that we were able to do were compartmentalize everything that Red Hill has to offer. One of the things I wanted to do myself was docent training. Can you explain just a little bit what a docent is for
Sure,
the people?
sure. Historic sites or museums have people that show you what's going on. Tour guides, almost. Some places call them interpreters. Some places call them docents. Docents is a word. I actually looked it up.
Okay.
I did. I know what
Really?
it means. I know. I do.
What is it? I'm trying. First time I heard it, I was like, docent. Right.
Docent actually comes from a word that means teacher.
Okay.
In some institutions of higher education, they refer to associate professors as docents.
Okay.
So when a person is a docent, they're actually teaching people about a subject. Again, some historic places refer to them as interpreters, but here at Red Hill, we refer to them as docents. And so they're the ones that kind of take visitors, talk to visitors about Patrick Henry, about his life. When they come into the museum, they might be able to tell about some of the certain artifacts in here. But the docent is kind of the expert on a subject, and they're teaching the visitors about that subject.
Okay. Okay. I was fascinated. I'm still very fascinated. And one of the reasons why is because once I started to learn about Patrick Henry, the individual or the one of the founding fathers of what we know today as democracy and freedom, right? In which here, this particular painting that's behind us, can you describe what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your viewers can see the painting pretty well. Patrick Henry is the figure on the right, all dressed in red. And this is a very significant moment. I mean, this moment is very significant in American history. The date was Patrick Henry's 29th birthday. It was May 29th of 1765. So we're still 11 years away from declaring our independence from Great Britain. This is just where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Henry is arguing in this scene. He's arguing in support of some resolutions, some ideas that he put forth for the General Assembly to vote on. And what this was against the stamp tax.
Okay.
The stamp tax was a tax that he felt was illegal, and everybody complained about it, just like we all complain about our taxes on April 15th, but still we write our check and send it in, right?
Yeah.
What he was saying is what we need to do is not only complain about it, but not pay. Now, the stamp tax might have been for a good reason.
Who was the stamp tax going to?
It was going to Great Britain.
Okay.
To help pay, because the colonies in Great Britain had just come out of the French and Indian War.
Okay.
And it was an expensive war, and it really kind of wore down the wallet of Great Britain. And so this might have been a legitimate purpose, but the way they did it was wrong. And that was what he was fighting about. So anybody who published newspapers or brochures or pamphlets,
Right.
playing cards, any papers that were sold, you had to buy this stamp from the government and put it on there. And everybody complained about it. All the assemblies up and down, all the colonies had written parliaments saying, we really don't like this, but we're going to do it. So he was really the first one with these resolutions to say, no, this is an illegal tax. Now, why was it illegal? we've all heard the phrase, and it's not attributed to Patrick Henry. This is not a Patrick Henry phrase, but in school, we always hear this phrase, no taxation without representation.
Right.
That's what it's about. The only people that can put taxes on the colony of Virginia are people that the Virginians elected. That's the group that the Virginians elected, not Parliament, not the people over in England.
Right.
So the argument was England doesn't have a right to put a tax on us.
Okay.
And he put forth a bunch of resolutions. The assembly approved them. They were published in newspapers in all the colonies, and then all the colonies started doing this. Thomas Jefferson points to this moment, May 29th of 1765,
Okay.
as Patrick Henry giving first impulse to the ball of the American Revolution. This is where it started. This is where the first division came that years later ended up with us being two different countries.
Right. And as I started reading myself and following through how that was the starting point. Yeah. And he was known as one of the things here, George Mason said, he is by far the most powerful speaker I've ever heard. For me, that rings a lot. And first I want to say, because 10 Minutes of Truth has a two-part reason that we're here, right? For American history in general, and for the African-American community to understand history and understand why Red Hill is important, right? For everybody, right? And also to the enslaved. So, we'll have, we're going to have a conversation in just a minute, because one thing that I learned about Patrick Henry as he moved along is that he was conflicted. He was conflicted about slavery.
He was.
Because he knew that he was very learned. He was a learned man. And so he understood that, as he said, it was abomination. He understood that, but in the same token, he also said it'll be an inconvenience if we don't, right? Because of the labor, right? And the business of slavery. So one of the questions that I have is that let's fast forward to now. He gives his famous speech that really, that give me liberty or give me death. It is to say, listen, we have to separate. We have to. The war is come. It's here. This is what he's saying. He's in front of, his men, and he's saying, look, we're going to have to fight. Right? We have to break.
Option.
We have to break away. Now, mind you, because the reason he's saying it is because if not, we're going to be slaves. That's what he's saying. We're going to be slaves ourselves. Now, contradictory, that they still have slaves, right? So when this war starts, a lot of people don't know where the African American played in that. They actually fought themselves, correct? Do you know any of those, the history?
I really don't.
Okay.
But I know that the British, there were times where the British would try to encourage slaves to fight on the side of Britain.
Right.
And then there were instances where they fought on the side of the Continental Army or the American Army.
Right. Right. Because that has always been with war for African Americans, even in the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
In the Vietnam War, they would, the Viet Cong would tell African Americans, you don't have no fight with us.
Right.
So it was, and we have a deep, rich history because we're embedded, of course, into America itself. And this is what we want the African American community to understand, because that's one of the reasons that I want to become a docent myself, to learn the history, and for when it doesn't matter if it's a little black boy or a little black girl, or a little white boy or a little white girl, or Chinese, that they can get the proper information, right? And you guys have to the best of our ability. Right.
And that's the key,
right,
is proper information. That's what Red Hill is all about. And
right.
I think that is something that Red Hill is kind of leading the charge on. in telling the story of the enslaved community here at Red Hill,
Right.
as part of the story of life at Red Hill and Patrick Henry.
Right.
And the education and the research that they're doing, reaching out to the community with help from guys like you, going out there into the community, reaching people, connecting with people. There are people that are in the community of Charlotte County, Campbell County, Halifax, and farther away than that, who have relatives that are buried here.
Right.
That maybe we know about and maybe we don't know about them. There's a lot of people we don't know about down
Right.
there on Quarter Place in the cemetery. But we want to be able to tell their story. We want to be able to tell your story, because it's important to the overall story of our community and of Red Hill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before Patrick Henry actually moved here, he had a plantation in Long Island as well. He lived in Long Island before coming here. I think one of the gentlemen we spoke about at the Quarter Place celebration, he was saying that I think they found a graveyard, a cemetery. I don't know if it was there. He was explaining to me. I have to go back and look at the video, but he was explaining another graveyard that was found. It was kind of, I think, had got messed up because they were doing logging. That's how they found it.
Okay, that's how they find
Yeah,
it.
that's how they had particularly found it.
Unfortunately, that's how they find a lot of cemeteries.
Right. Absolutely. Just
It'd be
because
nice
people
if-
are buried everywhere,
It'd
you
be
know,
nice
in
if
the
they
United
went
States.
in and
Right.
walked around before they brought in the
Right,
machinery,
right,
because it's
right.
not uncommon to come across a graveyard or a
Right.
cemetery that where stones are knocked over or
Right.
broken, and because machinery has come in there,
Right.
because they didn't know that it was there.
Right.
And that's unfortunate.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're in the museum.
We are so blessed. I'm just going to
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So fortunate, so blessed to have what we have
Yes.
down there on Quarter Place. Again, 147. And there's probably more. There's probably others out on the peripheral that we're not aware of yet. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I believe there might be more. But 147 undisturbed. I mean, there aren't any no machinery's been down there.
Right.
Nothing has driven over
Right.
and damaged anything.
Right.
And so, as I tell people many times, I've shared with people, and I might have even said it on the earlier podcast, I don't remember, that is one of the most special places here at Red Hill, is when you go down there, because it is basically undisturbed.
Right. Absolutely. And even, Patrick went through every segment talking about the law office of Patrick Henry. And, when I was reading about the law office and saying, me becoming a docent and having this information, and to tell, young Black boys and girls when they come here that you too could be a lawyer. You too could be an archaeologist. You too could be a historian.
President of the United States.
Anything that you want. And that's for any child, right? Because that's all we want to do is get the information so that we can start to understand. Because I understand better today that I don't know where I'm going unless I know where I come from, right? So, being in close proximity and being able, like now, for me to want to know, and say, well, I may have ancestors down there that I need to find out about. So I think that, what is being done here is a great thing. We want our community, we want all the community to connect to us, redhill.org. Patrick is, he comes a long way. Where do you come from?
I'm up near Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
9-hour drive to be.
He came down here to put on the attire for her. And let's speak about the attire. What do you know as far as why was this the known attire of that time?
Well, for Patrick, the attire, even though this looks a little bit weird today on camera, this looks a little bit strange. In Patrick Henry's time, this was very, very simple.
Right.
let's go back to the picture.
Right.
I mean, you got guys with the silk shirts, with the ruffled
Right,
cuffs,
absolutely.
with
And did this come
ruffled
from England?
cravats.
That look come from England?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and also the custom of wearing wigs, that was something that was British, that was English.
Okay.
So that custom was here. Now, when Patrick Henry was here at Red Hill, the custom of wigs was kind of starting to fade out.
Right.
And Patrick Henry also was pretty much removed from public life. So I doubt if he wore a wig very much. But the clothing was kind of just this. This was typical clothing of the day.
Okay.
You have what we call a vest, but they called it a waistcoat or a waistcoat.
A waistcoat?
Yeah, just like it's like a weird way
like a waistcoat.
Yeah, it's just like a weird way of saying waistcoat.
Okay,
because I guess it goes to your waist. I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
And your viewers can't see, but the socks and the shoes.
Oh, yeah.
And there you go, looking good there, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so what was it that I had read about?
While you're thinking of that, let me tell you one more story about his clothes.
Okay.
And this tells us a lot about him. And I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
this is
good.
a great little story. But it tells us about how frugal he was.
Okay.
And how he didn't care about how he looked.
Right.
It doesn't mean that he went around being a slob, but he was talking to a friend one day, and he held up his coat. And around, I don't have my coat on me right now, but on the coat sleeve was very well worn, just like coats get. You know, you wear your suit coat a whole bunch. After a while, it starts to get dirty and grungy around the cuffs. Maybe it starts to wear. There's some holes in it. He held up his cuffs and he says, this is good enough for me. He goes, I'm fine with this. But he said, I've got to get a new coat, not for me, but for the eyes of other people.
Right.
Because he knew that people would judge him. And but if he was this important guy and going around with a tattered coat.
Right.
But it was not his style. It was not his desire to dress real nice or to dress real fancy. But in that case, it was something that, well, because other people expect me to look nice, I guess I look nice.
Right.
You know?
He would actually, from what I read, he would actually come into the courtroom from hunting.
Mm-hmm.
He would have blood on his socks.
You got it. But probably not smelling too good.
Yeah. But he would speak. Let's talk a little bit about.
You'd forget about what he looked like,
right?
Because you'd be so engrossed with.
They would say that when Patrick Henry would, I forget what the one gentleman that, because he patented his speaking style from, you may know the gentleman, he was a minister. He was
Samuel Davies.
Samuel Davies.
Yep,
so he patented, he was a profound speaker. I think he was
a Presbyterian
minister. So he patented his style from him, but they said that I think this particular minister that I'm paraphrasing, that his speaking was like water that never overflowed the boundaries.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right. But they said that Patrick Henry was like
a raging mountain torrent
that swept everything away that came before it. Right. And that was just profound to me when when I read that about him. But they said that the stenographer, there were not a lot of his speeches written down. Right. They didn't have a lot cataloged from him. And even the stenographers of that time would be writing, and they would get so caught up with what he was saying, they would stop writing.
They'd forget to write.
So, and for me, being in the, speaking business, so to speak, myself, I just find that amazing.
Yeah, that was during that example is during the constitutional ratification convention of 1788, where there's pages and pages and pages of Henry's speeches and his dialogue in the monologue in the records. But the writer would write and he'd write but then he'd kind of get caught up and then stop writing and kind of forget about it. There's an attorney by the name of Peter Lyons, who was a very successful attorney. He was actually involved in the Parsons cause, which you and I have talked a little bit about.
Right.
And Peter Lyons would go on to say that that when he was in court, while other people were doing stuff, he could actually kind of still be paying attention, but writing down some different things. He might be working on filling out some other forms or something, but he'd still be able to hear what was going on and pay attention. But he said when Patrick Henry started talking, he had to put his pen down and just focus totally, because he was just so enthralled and just drew him in so much. The power and the way that Patrick Henry spoke was basically like no other.
One of the things that I noticed about reading about Patrick Henry is that he could connect to I forget the particular word, but the higher echelon of people as well as the common folk.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that was, he could find a healthy medium in between and draw the people in.
Yeah. Again, referring to this painting and this moment in time, Patrick Henry, in this moment where Thomas Jefferson said he changed American history, basically, by starting the American Revolution, Patrick Henry was only a member of the House of Burgesses at this time for 9 days.
Really?
So he was this freshman rookie player
that set the tone. Right.
And you've got guys like John Randolph, Peyton Randolph.
They've been there 50, 60 years.
Exactly. You guys have been here forever. You talk old school.
Right.
But you also had younger guys that had just kind of come in with him.
Right.
So this is a great example of Patrick Henry drawing these guys, bringing them together, and convincing the old school, conservatives of the day, not like conservatives today, but these old school guys and these younger guys, bringing them together to agree that that we need to repeal this or to not be a part of this tax, not to resist this tax. Now, it wasn't an overwhelming victory, but he was able to make his point.
Right.
And I think people began to see his potential.
Listening to that right there, right? Think about how true what we're doing right now stands for the essence of Patrick Henry and freedom. Because even now with, Patrick Henry's Red Hill, we're still moving the change along.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it. I mean, with what, Hope Morrison is trying to do and this beautiful community, because this is a community here at Patrick Henry, Red Hill. Since we have come in,
we're part of that community.
We're part of that community. It's a family now, right? And they're still, from what we just heard about him coming in 7 days and saying, okay, this is what, the essence of him is still moving along with change.
Right.
The things that need to change.
Things that need to change.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that this is, and we're all, on camera, off camera, it's the same thing. 10 minutes of truth is always just going to bring the truth. And, we have, hard conversations because I will say this, the reason that, and I'm in my kitchen, I said I wasn't going to bother you. I didn't.
You didn't. I know. I invited you.
He did. He invited me.
Called me all weekend long. I said, I'm on the clock, man.
Patrick, I got so engrossed in the learning process, right? And I'm sitting there, and the difference for me is and I'm just always going to be honest with the community, because I didn't know, right? I didn't know. But I said, Shawn, this is why you're fit for this bill, fit for this job, is because I don't learn from a place of anger, right? I don't learn from a place of, I can't believe. I learn from a place of wanting to know the knowledge that we could, regurgitate it back out into the world the way that it's supposed to be, right? And that was the main key component. So as I learned about slavery and the harshness of it as an institution of business, you know what I'm saying? And we don't take away the harsh things that happen with it. But I understood it not from a place of anger, right? I understood it that, we became some of the greatest architects ever. that we became some of the best farmers and agriculturalists and, and these great things. And because when these two very different and distinct nationalities and natures of people came together, they still had to work together.
Right.
They still had to learn each other, right? And in a lot of forms and fashions. And so still the same, we still have a lot of ills of today, right? We still, one of the things, and this is the reason, not in a shameless plug of us going into November 15th into the school system. They just had a school shooting yesterday.
I heard about that.
They just had a school shooting yesterday. And so I believe the more that we understand history, the more that we can correct things. Because a lot of history gets lost in translation. A lot of history gets lost because we don't want to know. And I was one of those people. I will say I was ignorant because I didn't want to feel the pain. I didn't want to know. I will be honest with you, Patrick. My grandmother, because she didn't want the institution of slavery to boggle us down, she didn't let us learn about a lot about it. Because she just didn't want us to be boggled down by it.
And as I understand, that was probably pretty common too.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
it was, and so you just didn't want to know. Right? You want to say, okay, well, we're not in that time now. Let's just move on. And I understand that because knowing is not for everyone, right? But for those that do, this is the garden spot. This is the garden spot to find out. It's so much, not just the quarter place, because like Patrick has said and everybody else, it's very special here. And from the opening, giving Hope and Takesha their plaques, so on and so forth. And just to show you the family that has embraced us, next year we'll be doing the speaking engagements here.
Ah, nice.
So I'm letting you know now I'll be speaking at the Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration as well coming up next year. But this is how we're just moving the narrative forward. Right. And just getting this rich history out. Once again, man, it's been just a great segment. Look for many more. Red Hill TV is going to be a phenomenal thing. It already is. Let the people know about how many times a year do you do tours, or can they do just one-on-one tours, or you group tours? How does that look?
Yeah, Red Hill is open pretty much year round.
Okay.
I think they're closed on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day or something
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
Okay.
People, I guess, need to understand that I'm not an employee of Red Hill.
Okay.
I'm a descendant of Patrick Henry. I come down here. I've been studying his life for over 30 years.
Wow.
And so I come down here and talk to people. That's what I love doing, is talking to people. Wow. People like you all. And I'd invite you all to come to Red Hill so I can talk to you in person, not just through a piece of glass.
Absolutely.
But when I'm not doing formal tours, I'm usually around, and I do individual tours. I used to come down 4 or 5 times a year. 4th of July is a big event down here. Come down for school groups and things like that. But now I'm retired.
Okay.
That changes the game, dude. That changes the game, man.
That's right.
That's a game changer.
Right.
And I mean, since I retired at the end of March,
This
year, I've been down here probably, and again, this is a 9-hour drive for me to get here.
Right.
I've been down here, I think, probably 9 or 10 times.
Really?
Yeah, man. And I can't get enough of it. I love being here.
Wow.
I can honestly say this, when I'm here doing what I'm doing, when I'm talking to folks like you, when I'm talking to visitors, I'm doing I feel like I'm doing what I was born to do. If you did want to do something privately with me, what you would do is contact Red Hill and talk to them. They know my schedule, or can help me create my schedule on getting down here and doing group tours. So if you've got a group, a church, community group, anything like that, a bunch of people that just want to get together and say, hey, we want to tour we got 20 people, we want to tour Red Hill, and we'd like Patrick to be a part of it. Contact Red Hill and talk to them about it, and they'll do what they can to make that happen.
Okay. All right. Everybody, you heard it. straight from Patrick's mouth to your ears. Come out to Patrick Henry's Red Hill. We look to see you soon, man. Thanks again,
You
man.
got me.
Appreciate you.